Hey everybody, it's Glenn from Third Millennium. We're going to do today's quick video showing you how to put our M800 or M600 speakers into the doors of a 90 to 97 Miata. We're going to have a separate video if you've got a 99 2005. So this one is just for the early cars. And we are going to show you the differences in the door setups for the very early years. They had a different door card arrangement for the 90 to 93s. And we'll show you how that's a little bit different. Now the speakers, we're just going to do our, we've got one of our M800s here we're going to actually put in. This is the two-way that has the polypropylene woofer and the tweeter in it. Comes with the harness adapter so that it plugs directly into the vehicle's wiring. Has the exact same 3 screw hole mounting arrangement as the original speakers, so that it's easy to install it. This is just a screwdriver job, really. The hardest part is actually fooling around and getting the door card off. Putting the speakers in is pretty trivial. And speaking of getting the door card off, let's just go through what's involved with that quickly before we get started. Now, this is actually a 1990 that we have here. On the 1990s, you got one of those. This is going to be a 5-minute job because this panel here actually comes off separately. There's just 4 push pulls. Just pop it right off and take the old speaker out, put the new speaker in. Now, if you have a later car, one of the 94, 95, 6, or 7s, you've got to actually remove the whole door card. So what we're going to do, the door card fastening is the same for all years. So even though we don't need to take it off on this 1990, we're going to go ahead and do that anyway, just so you see how the procedure works. Now, what do you need for tools? Really not much. Phillips head screwdriver, a little thin screwdriver flathead is nice. Maybe a needle nose pliers to help you out. I have a small powered screwdriver here just to make things a little bit easier. Having a rag is really going to be helpful for getting the door handle off, and I'll show you that in a minute. The only other thing that I want to point out that is different is the doors on the M editions and some of the Miatas that came with the R package. They've got a little tweeter mounted right up in here. The door card removal is exactly the same. The only thing that's actually different is you got to remember to unplug that before you get going. None of the Miatas in these early years had the power window switches in the doors, so you don't have to worry about any of those wires or anything like that. So I'm going to go ahead and put the camera onto the tripod, and we're going to get started. Let's take care of, if you have a 1990 to 93, this piece here is actually a separate piece from the rest of the door card. It's a better construction than the later years and makes it much easier to service. Basically, again, 4 push fasteners in the corners of this. Now, you can work with a ruler or something to help you pry a little bit. Actually, I just like to pull it right on the side, bottom, and then last side, off it comes. There's your speaker, and literally both doors, 5 minutes, and you're finished. We're going to continue along, do the door cards on this 1990, even though we don't have to, just so I can show you how those pieces come off. Now, one thing you want to do, have the window down before you get started. And the hardest part of the job, quite honestly, is just getting off the window crank. Now, window cranks on these cars, if you have manual windows, there's a small metal ring snap that actually is holding this into place. The hard part is you can't really see the thing to work with it. So, excuse me, question is, how do you get it out of there? So what we want to do, they sell some neat tools on Amazon and so forth for actually pulling these out. You don't actually need that. A rag will work for you. We're going to put the rag in on this side, which is the open side. We're going to pull back, and you'll either have this piece pop completely out and then the thing just falls off, or it'll just come back a little bit and stay on here, and then you can, with a small screwdriver, just sneak in, grab it, and pull it off. There's a little plastic ring here, which is just kind of a washer. My suggestion would be, so you don't lose this, just go ahead and put it right back onto the window crank. There's a slot on both sides. And the reason you can do this now is when this goes back on, you just push it into place. So you're all set to reinstall that. So go ahead and set that aside. Now, door handles, 2 screws underneath, 1 behind here. Just need to pull this off. Small screwdriver here, all you need just to remove this. And just want to be careful not to scratch things. Again, nothing is holding this into place. Just pushes in. And then 3 screws. And set the handle aside, just make sure you don't lose these. Alright, there's only one other screw that we got to take care of. Up here on the side, this cup around the handle is a Phillips head screw. Just want to go ahead and remove that screw as well. And now just pull up on the handle a little bit. You can just slide this out of the way. Set that aside. Those are all of the fasteners. Now, very important, door cards on this car and most cars don't pull outward. They actually lift up because they sit up over the top edge of the door. So you've got some push fasteners that are along the bottom and pieces here, and then it clips under the top. So the strategy here is you want to loosen these, and you can just do this with your hands. You can fit a ruler or something like that under there to give you a hand with it as well. One up in there. And once you have them done, you're just lifting up a little bit like that. Okay? And let me show you what this card looks like, just so you understand what you're working with here. Series of fasteners around. This is just a piece of what's called masonite, which is basically sawdust and glue. You do not want to overdo it on this stuff because it's just not that strong. It's not uncommon on the older cars for some of these to be lost. You can get these from Mazda. You can see there's one that was here, which looks like it's missing on this car. But you can get these from Mazda, so you can replace any of these that are missing. And you can see about how the top, it's only fastened with a couple of screws, this piece. So if you go very hard on that and you pull it out, you'll actually tear this right off. And that's obviously something that you don't want to do. Now, I'm going to stop the camera for a second. I'm going to show you one of the door cards from a Miata that has the integrated tweeter. This was actually a car with the R package. Okay, here's the door card. This is actually out of a 95. You can see that there's no longer a separate removable piece here, which is why you have to take the whole thing off. Handle arrangement was a little bit different, and this one is the tweeter up in the top. These are all interchangeable. Okay, so if you actually wanted this type of arrangement, you could do that. Quite honestly, having the tweeter up here, that's not a very helpful type of a thing. Headrest speakers are much more effective in the Miata than having a tweeter here. But some people like it, so you could actually get the cards, swap them around if you wanted. Looking at the back, you can see the same arrangement. There's a little disconnect up here where you would actually pull the piece off for the tweeter. This car, our edition, the speakers were actually by Pioneer. Better than the stock ones, but still not really a great speaker, and after 20-something years, most of them are worn out. Okay, we're all set now to go ahead and remove the factory speaker. This is, in fact, a factory speaker that's in this car. And by the way, be careful of this black stuff, which is holding this plastic in place. This plastic is just to try to keep the door card dry, but this black stuff is a nasty kind of stuff. If you get it on yourself, hard to get off. So this factory speaker, you can still buy factory speakers from Mazda. They're about $48 per speaker, and acoustically they are pretty awful. 3 mounting locations here. And just to be aware, you'll be able to reuse these be able to reuse these screws too, by the way. Just to be aware, there's really no way to know what previous owners may have done to the cars. You can find all kinds of things in here for speakers and all kinds of cutting and so forth. The good news is that usually these little plastic push-in nuts for the receiver for the screws usually are still there. I can see in this car there are some other holes here. That means somebody has been in here drilling and so forth previously. You don't have to worry about that. You're just looking for the 3 factory push-in fasteners, and then you're all set. Now, the speakers will either have the car harness plugged in directly to the side, or they'll have a short pigtail lead that comes off of the speaker and then plugs into the harness. But from 1990 through 2005, Mazda used the exact same connector on here, which is why our speakers come with that already attached. So it's really just a matter of plugging it in. Now, this has a situation where you need to press down on the tab and then pull. It can be very hard to bend that plastic. This is another operation where a small screwdriver can be really helpful. Just be careful with it. People, when they're forcing the screwdrivers, sometimes poke them right through the speakers and those types of things. If you push down with the tab like that, it allows it to just come free. And there's your speaker. Now, just so you can quickly see what you're working with here, let's put this up. The magnet's pretty strong. It'll hold it in place. We need to just make our connection here. And you'll hear a snap when it sets, like that. And go ahead and set it into place. Now, if you have too much wire, you can actually tie it up. There's a fastener down here. Some electrical tape was wrapped around it. The length of the harness in the vehicles does seem to vary from 1 year to another, and the production batch a little bit. So don't be afraid, if you got a little bit of extra, to tie it up. What you don't want is it to be banging against the side of the car every time you go over a bump or something like that. Take your new speaker, put it into place. Now, always hold the speaker by the edges. Do not hold it by the cone, just by the edges. And then what you want to do is you just want to start these screws with your finger. Now, I'm reusing the screws that were in here. We give you a set of screws with every M800 and M600. Just so that you have them, because again, you never know what the previous owner might have done and what might or might not be in there. So we give you a set of screws just in case. And you notice I didn't put those in very tight. It's not necessary to horse these down. You just need to get them snug so that they're solidly in place, and then you're all set. Okay, you're now ready to go ahead, put the door back together. I'll show you quickly doing that. And again, you want to start by setting it into the top up here. And what you're going to focus on is this window here, making sure that the seal here is right up against the glass so that you know that you're in place. All right, and it's just like that. Now, you have a series of snaps. A little bit of pressing is all you got to do. You don't have to get out hammers and start wailing on the door or anything like that. Just press into place. Door cup. Handle. And fastening these things down just solidly. Now, I told you that the handle just pops back in. Put the washer in place. Put the handle on, just give it a little punk. It's in place. Covering the bolt hole. And finally again, 90-93, back on. At this point you're all set, and you can go ahead and do the other door. Hope this helps you guys out. Hope you enjoy your Miatas. Hope you enjoy the M600, the M800s. And the Millennium 5 headrest speakers. If you have any questions, use the link there on the bottom. Glad to respond to them, or use the contact link that's on the website.